Welcome. In this session, we will talk about the summary for Yojana April edition, which focuses on Skill India mission. Now, Skill India mission mainly focuses on enhancing the skills, transforming the developments, and manufacturing and commerce. So, over the past few years, or we could say nearly one decade, we have seen Skill India mission reviving the lives of rural as well as urban youth. So, it was launched in 2015 with an idea to have a policy initiative and a framework for technological progress, and this was given a boost by Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, where 20 different programs which were previously there were subsumed under the Skill India mission. Now this program, which was started in 2015, talked about creating India's workforce which could be globally competitive, and with the introduction of new education policy and national credit framework, there has been an integration of the component which is vocational training in the mainstream education. Now this vocational training aims to earmark the idea that students can move between education and career pathways as they want through the national skill qualification framework, and whatever work they do as an intern would be added to their ABC, which is the Academic Bank of Credit, and this would create a connection between the practical knowledge as well as the theoretical knowledge. So another idea is to generate a green economy with the idea of acquiring green skills. Solar sector itself is projected to grow with nearly 32 lakh jobs by 2050. Now the next important thing is, for this Skill India mission to become successful, there has to be a significant partnership from industries, apprenticeship, and a flexible MOU and dual system training programs has to be created, which would provide on-job experience, practical learning, create important positions, create training for important positions in emerging sectors, and apprenticeship promotion scheme in itself has been very significant. Now those interns who work under these schemes get the enrollments through the DBT, that is the direct benefit transfer into their account. Under this Skill India, we are also talking about a AI mission, which is a national artificial intelligence mission, which aims to integrate the AI powered learning system across various disciplines and would help in automation, predictive analysis, and machine learning. Now companies like Google, Nvidia, Microsoft have been working for training the AI sector, and this report has been released by the NCVET, which is the National Center for Vocational Education and Training, to provide insight about the recent trends, the requirement of the industry, and the direction in which people can work for AI and become ready for the real marketplace, right? So they can develop their skills as per the real marketplace. The next is digital transformation. We have already talked about Industry 4.0, which focuses on automation, and when we are building up the skill or the youth of India with the skill enhancement, it is important that they are being offered the developments which work under Industry 4.0. So this brings in transformative platforms, flexible on-demand learning, AR, VR, which is augmented reality, virtual reality, digital skill cards being provided. Then there has been a significant budgetary allocation of nearly 8,800 crores for Skill India program itself. Upgradation of ITIs, the Institute for Industrial Training, have been upgraded. The World Economic Forum has said that by 2030, 85 million jobs would remain vacant due to the shortage of skilled professionals. So we do have lot of professionals, but working or enhancing towards skilled professionals is important, and these skilled professionals that would be required would be specifically in the field of automation, AI driven technology. So enhancing the skills under the segment would become really important. Now there are again recent efforts which have been done under the craftsman training scheme, which has prioritized the preservation and revitalization of the heritage craft, development of the centers, for example in Jammu Kashmir, in the northeast areas, have been important. And then through the skill development, we are also trying to preserve the rich culture and heritage of India. For example, hand embroidery, shawl weaving, wood carving, paper mesh industry, handloom industries are some other industries that can be preserved. The next is the PM Jajman Yojana, and that is the Pradhan Mantri Janjati Adivasi Nyay Maha Abhiyan, and that focuses on rural employment, specifically in the tribal community. Now, for building the skill, we definitely need financing. So skill impact bonds are being encouraged, and for them private investment is being seeked, and for this there are skill vouchers which are rolled out, and this allows learner to get accredited training to get them from the accredited training providers, and build actually on the financial side of the skill development program. However, there are challenges associated to it, which is lack of multidisciplinary learning, flexibility, and vocational education being not accessible to the nook and corner where it should be. The next is for enhancing the skills, what could be done. So government has definitely been prioritizing the idea of investments and enhancing the skill. Now this can be only through proper education, proper training, expanding the businesses, rolling out new researches. For that, investment in the research is another good idea, and the ambitious idea of 20 trillion economic goal would require strategic investments. Now the merchandise trade growth has slowed by 2% in the last year. In India, non-petroleum exports grew by 7%, and this one mainly in the field of chemicals, electronics, engineering goods, and pharmaceuticals. And with the ongoing trade wars, this could have a significant setback. But again, with the skilled India and skilled production, the service sector could be enhanced and developed, and also the local needs could be met. Now there has been a phase of stagnation, which is basically in the non-traditional sectors which are recovering, and it is evident that there has been a rise of the textile exports by 7%, which is a significant figure. Now there are nations which have worked exceptionally well with exports. For example, Vietnam, China, South Korea are some of the nations, and rather their economies have become very much dependent on exports. So creating economic development is very, very important for India's export-led growth. So for this, what are the major things that needs to be addressed? One is the infrastructure inefficiencies, the vulnerabilities in the various sectors. This could be petroleum, green energy, the compliances, the environmental compliances, the external challenges. Then there is a very much financial burden, and the unskilled labor which is on the top of it. So all these are some of the factors that have been hindering the proper export growth rate from India. Now for exports to be increased, government has also provided a scheme which is known as PLI, production linked incentive, which leads to creation of sustainable jobs and cutting edge technologies. Now this export led industrialization has led to development of tier 2, tier 3 cities, provided regional development in those centers. There are certain states which have become manufacturing hubs in India, for example Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Uttar Pradesh, and this has also given in good employment in the specific states, leading to reduced migration from these states, the out migration from these states, right? So again, another important sector where we would say is the logistics, infrastructure, and green energy, where a lot of youth has been empowered and has been absorbed. Now for the exports, what have been the initiatives by government? So there has been a creation of Bharat Trade Net, which is a unified digital program and a platform which would provide all the trade documentation and finance under one head. Now India is integrating its trade infrastructure with the global hubs like European Union, Singapore, and trying to have a unified logistics interface platform. Now this in itself would give a significant boost to export industry in India and provide improved logistic infrastructure, which is one of the very important components of manufacturing sector development. Now for example, in Bihar, Makhana Superfood, for promotion of Makhanas, Makhana board has been established, which provides value addition and marketing, empowers the farmers, because Makhana is one of the industries which is highly labor intensive, the chestnut industry, right? The next is the strategies to boost it. Now Bharatmala for road infrastructure, Sagarmala for coastal development, Gati Shakti for infrastructure, multimodal transport transport improvement are some of the programs. Now, minimizing the delays in this and having a strong trade agreement between India and Australia, India and UAE are some of the major centers through which India's trade has been governed. Again, MSMEs, which account for 45% of the exports, require financial and technological support, which has been provided by Ministry of Finance. There is again a global e-marketplace which provides a base for robotics, artificial intelligence, automation to be linked to the existing sector, and also combining the production linked incentive schemes with the Skill India so that the global value chain could be met is another important idea, right? So there, for these all things, there has been a significant budgetary allocation of nearly 20,000 crores which has been done. Improved regulatory efficiency and ongoing monitoring is another idea. And then quality control of India has been equipping with better standards to navigate foreign regulatory requirements, and also enhancing the UPI system across various countries. For example, dealing of UPI with places in UAE, with Singapore, is one of the ways where we are bringing in better digital payments and easier transaction accessibility, which can boost the trade between the nations, right? The next is improving the infrastructure quality. So for improving the infrastructure quality, there is another important idea that has to be taken into account, which is implementing the export promotion mission and Bharat TradeNet, lowering the cost, bringing in global competitive exports, removing the outdated infrastructure, and upskilling the workers with ensuring the regular working hours are being met. So innovations, startups, contribution towards economy from the green sector, practical training for the youth empowerment are some of the ways. Now, talking about digital empowerment for prosperous India. So for example, in Maharashtra, Baramati, farmers are being using agriculture being driven by AI. Now this has led to reduced use of fertilizer, better water management, and increased crop yields. Also, there has been transformation which has been seen not only in the research labs but in the everyday life, and the farming sector has definitely witnessed introduction of drones, through which soil health cards, through which the conditions could be maintained. And also we are talking about the first domestically produced semiconductor chip which would be released later this year by India. So electronics again is gaining capacity, and working with IIT-B, this has been one of the major researches. Now, computing data systems innovation have been really important in the field of weather forecasting. We have supercomputers, majority of the supercomputers being employed in climate modeling and weather prediction. This would help the 70% population of India, which is directly or indirectly associated to agriculture and allied activities. Also, graphical processing units, which is the GPUs, are now being available at a subsidized rate of 100 per hour, and this advanced computing would help researchers, startups, and academicians build AI systems with core modeling and practical applications, with extensive datasets being used at a widespread rate. And the next is the digital public infrastructure, which is one of the major blueprints for digital innovation in India, which could be achieved through public-private partnership. Now, creation of Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker are some of the ways through which we say the fintech industry has developed and revolutionized in India. The next is the Sangam of tradition and technology, and Mahakumbh actually witnessed that, which was one of the places with the world's largest human gathering, where advanced AI systems were used for real-time monitoring of passenger movements, managing the crowd, and then there was the Kumbh Sahayak chatbot, which was available with the Bhashini platform in the regional language. Also, there was integration of the communication system, which was SWIFT, between Indian Railways and UP Police. There has been another important aspect which has been developed, and that is the global capability center, which has become one of the major hubs for global research and technological innovation. And in India, the emerging fields include AI, 5G technology, semiconductor design, and India being about to release its first indigenous semiconductor chip by later this year becomes another important advancement for India. Now, another important thing is the regulations. Now, the government regulations and the government accountabilities for these things have been rationalized. The strict regulations which were hindering the progress of innovation and development has been now dependent on the market forces. So there has been a clear balance between technological and legal strategies that are into play. Also, tools are now being created to address issues like data privacy, cybersecurity, deepfake, and top institutions in India like IITs have been funded for the same. The next is, with the mission of Viksit Bharat, we are aiming to actually rely more on domestic innovation, vocal for local. For this, promoting indigenous product, securing the intellectual property rights, and local manufacturing of the finished products is one such important aspect. There have been surveys which have talked about anticipation in the improvement of Indian economy, targeting to 86% of the response, and this confidence of the consumer growth potential has increased by 30%, which is again very positive figure. Foreign direct investment has been coming in India for various sectors, and for simplified businesses, we are now having liberal sectoral policies, better tax reform systems, less compliance burden, and a single window system which has been released for better investments and options. So there has been another impact which has been seen for liberalization, and the cumulative FDI in the last decade has grown by nearly 119% as compared to the previous decade to it, which is again a big figure. India has already attracted a huge amount of FDI, accounting to nearly $991 billion in the last 20 years, with significant 67% coming in the last decade, which is again a significant FDI which has been flowing into India. Now, there has been ripple effects in the economy as well. With the industrial capacities and job creation, there has been changes in the sectoral allocation of the resources as well as the skills, and we have seen that there has been 6 crore MSMEs which have seen a positive impact of the investments, which has led to increase in the employment. But there are sectors which have also seen slowdown, but there has been a proper balance between the two. Now, the next is individual sector wise. If we say service sector has been boosted domestically as well as globally. India accounts for nearly 4% of the global service exports, and it is expected to rise to 12% by 2024 end. So by 2025 financial year, we are expecting a significant increase in the global services, but a significant slowdown in the manufacturing segment exports from India. But again, this could be because of the ongoing trade and tariff issues, right? Now, FDI cap has been changed. For example, in insurance industry, it has increased from 74% to 100%, which could definitely reshape the economic and the financial ecosystem of India. Similar FDI investments have been allowed in other sectors, and there has been infusion in the various segments which have made the environment more competitive, better standards that could be brought, and better approach that could be brought to handle it. The next is the IRDAI, which is the Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, has implemented the guidelines to ensure that any forest investment which would be brought in would be reaching the rural areas, the economically disadvantaged areas, and there would be a healthy competition which would be maintained with better and simplified tax regulations. GST rates on insurance products has been revised. 18% is levied on life, health, and unit linked, making the premiums more expensive. Now, reducing the tax rate would make the premiums more affordable, and this would be actually open for low income group as well. The next is for insurance services, technology aspect has been integrated. So AI driven technologies have been used to reshape the education system in India, the insurance system in India, with better claim settlement, better and truthful claim settlement, we could say, reducing or addressing the issues of mis-selling that can be seen. Then we have the post bank, the Indian post bank system. Now for that, the expansion of India Post Payment Bank has been done to the rural and the remote areas of India, with nearly 2 lakh postmen and Grameen Dak Sevak, which are delivering to doorsteps in the rural and the urban areas. There have been efforts to enhance the doorstep delivery, bring in digital banking systems, scanning of the parcels, which has now been done as some of the important developments under the postal reforms. The next is the credit enhancement facility. Now this has been boosted with the credit worthiness of the bonds, which has been brought in the sectors of energy, road, data. Grameen credit scores have been introduced for with the public sector banks for better access to loans and credit, which farmers or the rural areas, people in rural areas can take specifically for MSMEs to be established. And there are measures which would allow 100% FDI, specifically going to the rural areas in the insurance sector. The next is boosting the manufacturing and commerce in the industry. So under the National Manufacturing Mission, we are aiming to boost the production to the GDP by 25% by 2030. And there are various technologies specifically focusing on clean technology, and Atmanirbhar Bharat is one such effort. So National Manufacturing Mission is another important mission which focuses on ease of doing business, upskilling the high demand jobs, MSMEs, access to technologies and production of quality goods. Again, there has been circular economy initiatives which have been developed to bring in more global trade competitiveness. Basic custom duty exemption refers to reducing the duties on the import of certain goods into India, and this is mainly in the fields of cobalt, antimony, rare earth elements. Then you have lead, zinc, which are very basic foundations for manufacturing industries, specifically the electric vehicles nowadays. Now the next is eliminating the import tax. Now this would attract more global companies, and the import duty of 2.5% has been removed on smartphone components, printed circuit assemblies, camera modules and USB cables, and this would significantly lower the production cost, making the consumer utility things more affordable. PIL scheme we already focused on. The support that has been given to MSMEs through the Udyam registration portal, the Udyam assistant platform, have been really important, and there has been a modified interest subvention scheme for MSMEs which has increased from 3 to 5 lakhs, and the investment and the turnover limits have been revised by 2.5 times and 2 times respectively, which is a significant figure. Also there has been labor intensive sectors which have been developed, so improving the access to loans, simplified tax and policy support measures are really important. Now there has been another mission, which is Mission for Cotton Productivity, which is a 5-year initiative to enhance cotton farming and cotton cultivation, bringing in extra long staple varieties of cotton and bringing in a consistent supply of quality cotton for the traditional rural industry. This would bring in a major relief to the basic custom duties on knitted fabrics, which would be revised to 20% or higher, right? So again, the toy market in India, the export recently has declined from 177 USD million to 125 million. This may be attributed to global downturn, but on the other hand, we are also trying to bring in more competitive global toys, and this would be in line with the China's production for toy and the export of toy from Hong Kong and China, right? So another is the thing that we focus on reducing the exporters' reliance on bank, and this would be one of the major factors where people actually face issues with high premiums, lack of alignment with the subvention schemes, higher interest rates, and so on and so forth. The next is Bharat TradeNet. As we said, this is a unified portal where documentation, financing solutions could be brought under one head, infrastructure could be developed, and then there is a interest subvention scheme which has been released. Also, there is incentive promotion scheme which has been developed for UPI transactions. The benefit would be percolated to the common man. The overall development for the small and large merchandise have been given under the scheme. The details have been cited here, and the Government of India payouts through these have been cited, right? The next is the fintech industry, which we have already talked about, the RuPay cards, the development in the national program for dairy development. Now, dairy has been another important aspect of India, with dairy through cooperative, like on the Amul model. There has been integration with Government of Japan, Japan International Cooperative Agency, Cooperation Agency for the agreements between the dairy cooperatives to enhance the production, processing and marketing infrastructure through help from Japan, and this has been rolled out in 9 states in India. The list has been given here. Also, with the help of this, we are bringing in milk testing laboratories, milk coolers, which have been brought in, milk analyzers, adulteration detection systems. So these are some of the ways under which dairy sector has been revised. And again, the list of the revolution under dairy industry after the White Revolution, which has been termed as White Revolution 2.0, has been really important. Subsumed under it is the Rashtriya Gokul Mission, the revised version of it, which aims to accelerate the growth of livestock through the genomic chips, IVF, sustainable livelihood could be achieved for dairy farmers in India. So there is promotion of high genetic merit HYV heifers, which with the loan rates are only 3%. Now, the core components are the following. The list has been given here. These would be again available in the handouts, but again, as we said, GauChip, Mahish chip are some of the tools which have been used to identify the indigenous cattle, the indigenous buffalo breeds, and this has been developed by the National Dairy Board of India and the ICAR NBAGR. So GauSort system, which is the section through indigenously development for promoting the indigenous breed, has been important. Now, promoting and developing the tribal culture through tribal council, through the Eklavya schools, then the replacing the tribal laws on criminal matters through the IPC have been really important. Protecting the land and the forest rights of the tribals. So Gaur and Santhal laws, which were there previously, have been studied systematically through the works of the Archer, and this has become more comprehensive set. So tribal laws have been seen as a set of principles which were under the Santhal laws and have been enhanced through the hierarchy of tribal codes. So this is again one of the pioneer works. Then we have the Guwahati High Court, which has talked about codifying the tribal laws into 12 reports of various types: the family matter, the inheritance, land rights and justice administration. Talking about understanding the tribal judicial system, the marriage inheritance, revising the Lok Adalas, the People's Court is again important. There have been significant findings which you can see, which have been resulted from the survey for tribal development, specifically talking about the property rights, the hierarchy of which the formal land rights would run. So they have been adopted through various traditional customs. For example, Bodo Kachari adopted the Hindu practices. Mizo have seen a decline in their traditional customs due to Christianity. Nicobaris have seen a transition to nuclear families. So there has been significant customary laws which have been revised, brought under a single framework. This would also include the rights of the daughters, the widow's right, the inheritance right, the marriage norms, the traditional laws, the laws for the unmarried men and women, the laws for the married ones, for the widow, for the plowman. So there has been a significant analysis of these rights, and specific development under each of these rights have become much more simplified and trying to restore the gender equality and adapting the tribal institutions has been important. Now, AI database platform for driving innovation, which is known as the AI Kosh, has been released under the India AI mission, which is in line with the digital public infrastructure. Then there has been an adoption for declaration of circular economy. We have already focused on circular economy and how it works in Rwanda in one of the case studies in Down to Earth. So again here there is a C3, which is Cities Coalition for Circularity, which is a worldwide partnership where clothes and other things are being brought as part of circular economy, being recycled and sold into the market again. So there are 24 Asia Pacific countries and 200 international attendees who are part of it. The next is One Nation, One Port. Now this is a relief to the maritime reforms in India, which aims to promote environmental friendly practices and increase efficiency, reduce the expense and simplify business transaction across any and all ports in India through the METRI scheme, which is Master Application for International Trade and Regulatory Interface Platform, to provide a digital trade route using AI. Semiconductor production, we already said 2025 is the deadline for the launch of the first semiconductor chip in India, and we are also launching this Madhya Pradesh first IT campus in India, which would be a center where government would be training 85,000 engineers in advanced electronics and 20,000 engineers specifically from Madhya Pradesh in the services related to IT hardware, server, motherboard, drones, robotics, and would be able to create nearly 1200 jobs in the next 6 years. Again, aiming to boost the electronic export from India is important. Under the games, Khelo India Para Games 2025 have been announced, and this is mainly for the Paralympics. So again, some of the major participants and the list of those have been given here. So those were some of the major developments that we have seen in this edition of Yojana April 2025. We are covering Yojana, Kurukshetra and Down to Earth on a regular basis. So stay tuned for further updates from our side. Have a great day ahead.